Hello and welcome. My name is Shagun Aurora and I am a database specialist solutions architect here at AWS. In today's video, we will be looking at upgrading your Aurora MySQL version 1 clusters, which are MySQL 5.6 compatible, with a few demos, and we will also discuss best practices. I'm also joined today by my colleagues David and Umesh.
Hi everyone, I'm Umesh Shrestha and I'm a database solution architect with AWS.
And I am David Laboya. I'm also a database specialist solutions architect. I specialize in Amazon Aurora, Amazon RDS, and other relational database technologies. And with that being said, let's get started. And on the agenda today, we will talk about what is happening, important timelines to keep in mind, the different upgrade options available. We are going to show you a demo, and also we will talk about best practices that you need to follow when performing an upgrade. So what is happening? Amazon Aurora MySQL version 1 is planned to reach its end of life on the 28th of February 2023. As a result of this, it is recommended to upgrade your Aurora MySQL version 1 clusters into version 2 before this deadline. Amazon Aurora provides newer version of database engines so you can keep your database clusters and instances up to date. Newer database versions include bug fixes, security enhancements, and other optimizations. If you are running an Aurora version 1 cluster, you'll receive a notification that is similar to the screenshot on your personal dashboard. And with this, you'll be able to get more information about the upgrade event. This is applicable to both your Aurora provision and serverless clusters. Here are the important timelines to keep in mind. From now through February 28, 2023, you can upgrade your Aurora MySQL version 1 clusters to Aurora MySQL version 2. And from there, you can decide to do a further upgrade into Aurora MySQL version 3, which is compatible with MySQL 8.0 for your Aurora database clusters. On the 27th of September 2022, you will not be able to create a new Aurora MySQL version 1 clusters or instances. You will not be able to do this from either your management console or command line. You also won't be able to add new secondary regions to your Aurora global database, and this will prevent you from completing activities such as performing a recovery of your Aurora global database from an unplanned outage. And this is because the final steps of this process involves adding regions to your Aurora global database cluster. You also will not be able to create a new cross-region root replica that are running Aurora MySQL version 1. Finally, on the 28th of February 2023, AWS will automatically upgrade your clusters running Aurora MySQL version 1 into the default version of Aurora MySQL version 2 at that time. And this will be done during your scheduled maintenance window. Also, if you restore an Aurora MySQL version 1 snapshot, your snapshot will automatically be restored into the default version of Aurora MySQL version 2 at that time. To perform this upgrade, we have a few options. First is the in-place upgrade option, and this is the preferred option. This upgrade method is relatively fast and convenient because it doesn't require copying all your data to a new cluster volume. It also does not require creating a new cluster, so it preserves your database endpoint. The second option we have by simply taking a snapshot of your Aurora MySQL version 1 cluster and restoring it into a new Aurora MySQL version 2 cluster. This option creates a new cluster, so it does not maintain the same endpoint. The third option we have available is cloning. This option can be used in situations where the top priority is to perform an immediate switch over from the old cluster into an upgraded one. It is a variation of the in-place upgrade. It is done by creating a database clone of your cluster that is running the old Amazon Aurora MySQL version and then performing an in-place upgrade on the clone. This process allows you to run the old and the upgraded clusters side by side, and after your data is completely replicated into the upgraded cluster, you can then perform a switch over into the upgraded cluster during your downtime. It is important to remember to test out these options in your staging environment, and also you should take a snapshot before beginning this upgrade to get the duration of the upgrade. Now, with that being said, I'll pass it on to Umesh, who will show you the demo.
Thank you, David. Now I will show you 3 demos on how to upgrade your Aurora MySQL version 1 cluster to Aurora MySQL version 2. The first demo will be an in-place upgrade. The second demo will be a snapshot and restore. And the third demo will be on Aurora clone. So let's get started with in-place upgrade demo. Now I have my Aurora MySQL cluster currently running Aurora version 1.23.4, which is compatible with MySQL 5.6. Now to upgrade this cluster, select it and click on Modify. Now on the settings page, you can change your engine version from 1.23.4 to Aurora MySQL 2.10.2. Now in the database options under additional configuration, you can specify your parameter groups. Database parameter, they specify how the database is configured. A database cluster parameter group acts as a container for engine configuration values that are applied to every database instance in the cluster. And a DB parameter group acts as a container for engine configuration values that are applied to one or more DB instances. If you create a DB instance without specifying a database parameter group, the database instance uses a default database parameter group. You can't modify the parameter settings of a default parameter group, but you can create your own custom parameter group where you can choose your own parameter settings. So for this lab purpose, I've created custom parameter group as Aurora MySQL custom PG57, and I'm selecting this parameter group. And once you have made the necessary changes, click on continue. So in the summary of modifications, now you can compare your current value with the new value. As you can see, my current engine version is Aurora 1.23.4, and my new value is going to be the Aurora 2.10.2, which is compatible with MySQL 5.7. And I have also changed the default Aurora 5.6 parameter group to my custom parameter group. And I've left the DB parameter group as default. You have 2 options now to apply the upgrade process. You can either apply it during your next scheduled maintenance window, or you can apply it immediately. The in-place upgrade mechanism involves shutting down your DB cluster while the upgrade takes place. So in order to minimize downtime during the upgrade process, do some advanced planning and preparations and upgrade it during your scheduled maintenance window. For the lab purpose, I'm selecting Apply Immediately and click on Modify Cluster. Once the process begins, it runs until the upgrade either succeeds or fails. You can cancel the upgrade while it's underway. And if the upgrade fails, Aurora rolls back all the changes and your cluster has the same engine version, metadata, and so on as before. Now the Aurora MySQL cluster has upgraded and is available. So let's go ahead and check the engine version. And you can see now that it has upgraded to Aurora MySQL 2.10.2, which is compatible with MySQL 5.7. One of the things that I want to point out here is that you can change the settings on your custom parameter group by clicking on it. And then on the next page, you can click Edit Parameters and then modifies those values. And with this, we conclude the in-place upgrade demo. Now, in this second demo, I will show you how to use Snapshot and restore process to upgrade your Aurora MySQL version 1 to Aurora MySQL version 2. Let's get started. So as you can see, the current Aurora MySQL cluster is running Aurora MySQL 1.3.4. And to start the upgrade process, select your writer instance, go to Actions, and take Snapshot. On the next page, give a name to your snapshot, and then click on Text Snapshot. Now you can see that your snapshot is getting created. Now that the snapshot is ready and available, select your snapshot, go to Actions, and click on Restore Snapshot. Now in the next page, under the available versions, select your Aurora MySQL 2.10.2. Give a name to your database cluster. I'm naming it as Aurora MySQL version 2, and then I will leave everything as default, and then click on Restore Database Cluster. Now you can see that the new cluster is getting created. Now the new Aurora MySQL version 2 cluster is ready and available. Now let's go ahead and check the engine version. Let's click on the cluster and click on the configuration tab, and you can see that the engine version now is Aurora MySQL 2.10.2, which is compatible with MySQL 5.7. Now in this final demo, I will show you how to use Aurora clone to upgrade your Aurora MySQL version 1 cluster to Aurora MySQL version 2. Let's start the demo. You can see that my current Aurora MySQL cluster is running on Aurora 1.23.4 engine version, which is compatible with MySQL 5.6. So to use the clone to upgrade, select your Aurora cluster and click on Actions and click on Create Clone. On the settings page, give a name to your DB instance. I am giving it a name as Aurora MySQL clone. And then I'll leave everything as default, and then I'll click on Create Clone. Now you can see that the new Aurora MySQL clone cluster is getting created. Now that the new clone cluster is ready, let's check on the engine version. Click on the configuration tab, and you can see that the clone cluster is running Aurora MySQL 1.23.4. So to upgrade this cluster, select it and go to Modify. And on the next page, change the engine version from 1.23.4 to 2.10.2. And I'll leave everything as default and click on Continue. Now, on the summary of modifications, confirm your current value and then new value. As you can see, I'm upgrading from Aurora 1.2 3.4 to Aurora 2.10.2, and I'm selecting to apply immediately. And then click on Modify Cluster. Now you can see that the clone cluster is getting upgraded. Now that the new clone cluster is ready, let's go ahead and check the engine version. Let's look at the configuration tab, and you can see that the current engine version is Aurora MySQL 2.10.2, which is compatible with MySQL 5.7. Now that concludes the demo. Next, Shagun will talk about some of the best practices when upgrading from Aurora MySQL version 1 to Aurora MySQL version 2.
Thank you, Umesh, for the demos. Now that we have looked at various options to upgrade your Aurora MySQL version 1 clusters, which are MySQL 5.6 compatible, let's look at some best practices while performing the major version upgrade to Aurora version 2. Since a major engine version can introduce changes that aren't backward compatible, it's critical to be aware of common issues, steps involved, and best practices to have the least impact on your applications. Let's first start with testing the upgrade in lower environments. To get a staging environment which has the most recent copy of your production database, you can take a snapshot and restore it. You can also create an Aurora clone and then perform the upgrade on the newly restored cluster or clone using the methods shown previously. This can help in testing the upgrade with your applications and also provide a rough estimate on the upgrade duration. Make sure to check the What's New documentation for the target MySQL engine version you are upgrading to. We will leave a link for it in the description box below. This will serve as a guide for new features or changes to previous functionality. Also keep an eye out for any changes in default values of database parameters that you may be using in your production environment. Once you have upgraded your test cluster, the next step is to perform load testing on your application. This testing varies for each application, but most importantly, we should be covering the following points. Run explain on your most important queries to check the updated query execution plan. Compare for any changes in the query execution plan from the previous version. With MySQL 5.7, new optimizer enhancements have been added, and hence it is expected to see a change in the execution plan for some of your queries. So ensure the query performs optimally in the new environment. Another aspect to check would be to ensure that the table statistics are updated by running Analyze Table statement. This slide covers a brief overview on testing. However, these steps would vary depending on the criticality of your workloads and application. In the next slide, we cover things to keep in mind while you're preparing to upgrade your production cluster. While preparing for the upgrade in your production environment, the first and very important step would be to take a manual snapshot or create an Aurora clone prior to starting the upgrade. In case there are any issues during the upgrade, you can use this snapshot to restore the production database. Next, the cluster and instance level parameter groups in Aurora are engine version specific. So let's say you have a custom parameter group that you use with your Aurora MySQL version 1 cluster today. You can copy the parameters to create a new custom parameter group compatible with Aurora MySQL version 2 and attach it while performing the upgrade. Now let's say you're performing the upgrade by using the in-place method. In this case, Aurora performs a series of checks in the backend before beginning the upgrade process. We recommend to check the database activity by looking for any long-running transactions, as this would mean a longer transaction rollback time. You can also check the history list length of your cluster, which we would ideally need to have a rather low value, usually less than a few thousand, but a write-heavy workload or long-running transactions can cause it to increase. Checking for these aspects can minimize the time Aurora performs the pre-checks and shorten the overall upgrade duration. Lastly, to perform immediate switchovers, customers can also use a multi-step process that runs the old and new clusters side by making use of binlog replication. For more details on testing the blue-green deployment, please find the link in the description box. So this concludes our session today. We were able to look at important timelines related to Aurora MySQL version 1 end of life, discuss different methods to perform the upgrade, and we also looked at best practices while preparing for the upgrade. We hope this session and the demo were helpful for you to plan the upgrade for your Aurora clusters before Aurora MySQL version 1 reaches end of life for its support period. Thank you so much for taking out the time to watch this session, and I wish you happy cloud computing from all of us here at AWS.